Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle 894, Gary's here, and we've got lots to talk about. I've got my 8mm cine films back, find out how we got those digital and how we're going to add the music to it, and some Windows apps that I've been using for taking things upscale and taking things downscale, giving a retro feel. Gary's talking about his smart heating in his studio. We've got new builds of Windows 11 and lots more, so let's get straight to Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
And looking extremely clear and high def tonight. And sounding
coming through the joys of 5G today. This is quite impressive. This is on the free. Well, it's actually on Smarty SIM, but it's pointing to a free 5G tower using the free 5G router. And now I've worked out if I point it out the window, I get a reasonable good speed. In fact, it's actually better than my cable connection, my fiber connection. So yeah, it's pretty good.
It's looking really clear.
Yeah, I get about 750 downstream average and about 30 to 35 upstream. 35 upstream is good enough for most things. So
yeah, that's looking really clear. No dropouts or glitches or anything. It's really good.
And I'm kind of. So I've got it pointing out a window, which is good. The only thing is my window actually points away from the transmitter, so I'm getting reflected signal coming in through it. So if I put an external aerial on, which is kind of thing I'm kind of thinking of, because this has aerial ports on it on the router, I should get even better signal for upstream. I don't think I'll get better downstream. Downstream's good anyway. Obviously, this is all down to transmitter strength. The transmitter on the tower is obviously a lot stronger than the transmitter in my little router. So downstream's good, but still impressive stuff.
Oh yeah, that's good. I mean, when you get the 5G like that, it's really good. I was in Manchester on Saturday and getting well over 120 meg. Of 5G until I got into went to a theatre, and of course, as soon as everybody piles into the theatre, the fact it doesn't matter if it's on 5G, but if it hasn't got enough bandwidth to give it out, so it kind of crawled to no data once again, which you often get when you get a lot of people in one location.
Yeah, it's all down contention on a lot of those things, but I've got minimal contention at the moment, so it works well. It's good, as you can see, it works really well.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it works good. I mean, it's it's only in selected areas, though, isn't it? That's the I suppose the
issue. Just have to check if you got coverage. And this is fairly recent. We've had the free 5G. We haven't got. I don't think we've got any other providers here at the moment. So, but at least that does mean I can use a Smarty SIM, because Smarty is actually part of the free group, and they you can just use one interchangeably. Right? And I have to say that the Smarty Unlimited deal at the moment is kind of almost unbeatable at 20 quid a month for unlimited data on 5G. You can't really beat that at the moment. That's why, and it's only a month by month contract, so you can always get out of it if you want to. So yeah,
it kind of makes thinking whether do you really need fiber lines or anything like that if you can manage on that.
Yeah, no, I guess it depends really if you're going to do a lot of upstream stuff. If you're doing a lot of simultaneous video calls, we've got more than one person in the family doing Teams calls for work or something like that, then you might need something better, because I mean, this bandwidth's fine for high res on one call, but I wouldn't want to do it on multiple calls. So yeah, it's good. I'm just trying to bring up the Smarty app just to see how much data I've used since I started using it, because the Smarty app's quite good in terms of what it tells you. So I can remember which one I'll. No, that's weird. That's a weird message. I suddenly got a message saying my account had been closed, but I don't think that's the case. It's just going to pop back up and come up. Yeah. Let's see what I've actually got. So let's choose the right phone. That one, not that one. That's my phone, not the data plan. It does seem to take a while to switch over plans. Let's choose the right one. So, and the other thing is I've now got a group plan on this. So I've got my two phones we've got in the family and the 5G router all on the same group plan, which means that we get a discount on subsequent SIMs. So then they're only £18 a month for the other one. So it's quite it's a pretty good deal. I'm sure I haven't found a better deal for unlimited anyway at the moment. Yeah, I've used I mean, since when did I start? When's that started? In the last 5 days, I've used 24 gigs. So
That's not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, it's quite fun.
Yeah, it's certainly doing the job anyway now.
Yeah, a lot better than I previously had.
Yeah, definitely. So while you're in there, have you managed to sort out your heating then?
Well, that's what this thing on the wall is all about. So people on the podcast can't obviously see it, but I've got a template up on the wall at the moment, which is where my new far infrared heater is going to go. And I've been playing with it. And if I just wander off this side, I'll come back and show you what we're dealing with.
Okay. So for the audio listeners, it's got the template up on the wall.
We'll let Ian do the visual description of this.
Yeah. Oh, and that looks like a nice painting now that you've brought in.
Yeah, so
of a boat on a lake.
Yes, yeah, with a bit of sunshine. It looks warm. It's got sort of sunshiny warmth to it. So basically, this is quite thin. You see the thinness of the panel.
Yeah, it's like a picture frame thickness, isn't it?
Yeah, picture frame type panel. And I just put that down. It's reasonably heavy because it's got an aluminium frame. I'll come back and explain it.
So it looks just like you've got a large, picture to go up on the wall.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, that's what it is for more extensive purposes. Until you plug it in and you get a little blue light down the bottom of the screen, or red light depending on what you got, which ones you got, and then it just starts. If you turn the heat on it, it just generates heat. It's like standing on a warm summer day, because it's infrared heat, so it goes. And obviously, it doesn't warm the air. So you've got cold air around you. You still have cool air around you, but you've got the heat coming off like sunshine, effectively. So it's quite pleasant. And what it does, it warms the furniture. It warms the walls. It warms. They then reflect the heat back at you on a long time. So and it's only 700 watts, which is more than enough to actually fill this room with heat. And when I tested it yesterday, it got the room up to about 28 degrees in about 5 minutes. So it was pretty impressive. I mean, obviously this is pretty well insulated, but so I think it's going to be a real cost saving over anything else that you could use to heat it. I mean, I don't need an awful amount of heat because of the insulation, but when you just drop below them into the negative figures outside, then you do need a little bit of heat. But yeah, I think it's going to hopefully it's just going to work. And the idea is it's going to be up on the wall centrally, because it does that sort of angle of heating, so it goes out and it should fill the room quite nicely. It certainly seemed to be working yesterday when I tried it. So, and this one is it's a slightly more expensive. You can get quite cheap versions of these panels, which you've got a plain white one, you can get one for some £100. But this one is obviously got a picture on it. It's also got Wi-Fi control as well. It uses the Smart Life app to be able to control it over Wi-Fi, and you can do a thermostat, and you get the standard sort of things like remote control for it. And it works quite nicely to be able to set. But it does seem. I mean, it seems very effective, and I think it's probably the way heating's going to go. I think everybody I know who's got these panels seem to love them. I haven't really heard anybody saying they don't like them. And if you can fit them into your ceiling, say you've got a suspended ceiling, you could actually have these panels sort of built into your suspended ceiling. So you can. It's brilliant for a lot of offices now using them because of that. You can just put the heating at the top, and you don't have to. And if you think about it, you're not losing any wall space. I mean, the picture up on the wall is not that sort of high. It's not down the bottom where you want to put your furniture or anything.
Yeah.
So you don't have the bulky radiators or anything getting in the way. So it should free up floor space, and that's actually why I wanted to do it here, because it's obviously we've got the sort of the corridor type effect in here.
Yeah. More
space to have at the back and better. So yeah, it's going to hopefully look pretty neat. And I've got the power for it as well. I mean, it does come with a plug, but they recommend it goes on its own 5 amp feed, and as it can draw more than other plugs on the circuit. So that's what I've got. I've got a spur which is going to put the it's got its own protection in the consumer unit. So it's going to hopefully be nicely done. I'll just wire it in once I've got it up on the wall, which is the next challenge.
Because I think in our conservatory, I've got an electric heater. It's a fairly modern one, so it's quite thin, but it is using the conventional sort of electric heater type thing, and I've got a smart plug on it to control when it comes on. But it takes about 10 minutes to heat up the conservatory. When you would, I mean, I don't go and sit in the conservatory in the winter anyway, because it's it's not ideal for that. But actually, it is a bit on the bulky side, like I said. So I can't have a unit, I can't have a chair in front of it or whatever, because that would defeat the object. So actually having one of these panels on the walls where opposite you would actually make more sense. So I guess you've got to have them higher up. You don't want them too low either. You've got to, in your case, you want them higher up, don't you?
Yeah, not too. I mean, certainly not too high in my case, because I want to have it. I'm going to be seated in here, so I want it bothering me when I'm seated. But so you want it high. I mean, if you've got smaller people walking around who can touch it, because it does get quite warm, you probably want it a little bit high up the wall. But yeah, it's. I mean, it's no hotter than a conventional radiator gets, to be honest, and for touch. But it does seem, it definitely generates heat at a distance. And the further away you are from it, the more you get that sort of more benefit from it. But it's definitely seems. I mean, I'll report in a couple of weeks and see how I've got on with it. But so far, so good. It's looking pretty cool. I mean, there was one thing which did frustrate me slightly, was that the Smart Life have got integrations with Smart Things, and I use Smart Things as my controller. So I've got my thermometers for Smart Life that they come across in Smart Things. I can see them all right. But this doesn't have a Smart Life to Smart Things conversion, so it doesn't show up in Smart Things, which is a bit annoying, because I would like to control. I mean, I've worked a way I can control it with scenes from Smart Life scenes in Smart Things, but it's because basically these Toyo people who do all the functionality for Smart Life and the Toyo app only provide integrations if the customer pays for the integration, as in their manufacturer. So if the manufacturer hasn't paid for the integration for Smart Things, and they haven't in this case, they've done Alexa and they've done Google Home, then you won't get it, which is a little bit frustrating, because I would like that, but I'll find ways around that at some point. But yeah, I mean, I actually thought about it afterwards. I probably would have been as equally well off with the dumb version of this. So you could, because I could have used Smart Life. Smart Things, thermostat control, and the way I've been currently controlling my other heater, which would have saved some money, and probably saved £100 worth of money. But at the time, I thought I was going to control it all through his app. So yeah, I think that's probably the one thing I would learn from that. I can turn this into a dumb one just by flipping a switch. It's got a thermostat override switch, which fooled me the first time I used it, because I thought it was the on-off switch for the panel. And then I couldn't work out why, when I got it turned up on the remote, it was still generating heat, and that's because that actually overrides the remote and the Wi-Fi. So then you could just control it from a smart switch, as you said. You could have a smart switch plugged in, like you've got in your thing. So yeah, but it's definitely interesting to sort of see these things in action. And if it goes well, I have actually been thinking whether I should get a couple of small panels under the desk heating, just to keep my legs warm, because there's the one bit which gets cold.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So, well, interested to see how you get on with that. I'll definitely be interested to see how that works for you. Now, we've got some other things we'll talk about this week. We have got some build news as well. I've got my 8mm films back as well, so we can talk about that and how we can put some music to it. And also, I wanted we've got a bit more AI stuff, but I wanted to mention, I sent my films off and got them back, great. But I was also looking at doing some other work with some old photos, and I thought I'd have a look at some AI tools to see what you can do to improve it. And I actually found one that works on photos and videos. Now, what I found with the cine films, the 8mm films, they don't need any additional restoration work, because first of all, the transfer is very good, and also you're going from film, which is that high definition anyway. It's analog film, isn't it, that you've captured? So that's not. But what I found interesting, a new tool or an open source tool I play with is one that will take low res images or lower and then upscale them so they look better at a high res. So if you've got, say, a picture was taken on a digital camera 10 years, 20 years ago, when you were looking at maybe low frame, low 340 by 340 or something like that, and then when you blow that up onto a modern display, it looks terrible. So I found this tool called Video 2X. It's on GitHub. It's an open source tool, and we can share my desktop. I think it's this one. Oh, that's sharing Teams. I don't want to share that. I'll share my desktop. There we go. Yeah, so this is the tool, and effectively you give it an input file, you give it an output file, and it upscales. So it's not improving the video quality as such. It's taking those missing bits of information, say a 340 by 340 picture, and you take it to 1080p or whatever. It's filling in the information. So I don't be able to see this on here, but here I've got a couple of photos of my twins when they were very young. So this is a good nearly 20 years ago, I guess, these pictures. And I've side by side them here, and you can see the effect. So the one on the right is pretty pixelated because that's the original file. It was taken with a digital camera. So I can't remember. I don't know if it might show me on here. So it's 640 by 450, 180 DPI. So when I took that one, and then the one on the right here is the upscale one, which is now 1200 by 900. But you can see it's not perfect, but it's certainly got rid of the the jagged lines. If I zoom in here on the shirt, you can see if I go to sort of that level, on there, and you can see the difference. It really has done quite a good job on filling that in. So it's not perfect. It does look a little bit artificial, but
especially around the face. I think the face is the bit which it looks like you have Android twins.
Yeah. So, but of course I'm zoomed in at 344% there. So if I take it back to sort of the original,
then it looks okay, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is it not?
Yeah. So you can actually tell so it's quite interesting. So I was going to try this on the videos, but I decided against it for the cine films because it's not worth it, because there is no digital interpretation or anything like that on it, because it's just been recently transferred. So, but that I thought was quite interesting. So this tool does video as well. So if you've got, say, a video that you took 20 years ago on your digital camera, or maybe you took it on your Trio 15 years ago or whatever it was, and it's in 340 by 340, you can use this tool to convert it and upscale it. So it's quite an interesting little tool, that. So like I said, I got my videos back, or my films back. A great service. I'm going to do an article on it. Bushy Digital in London that I sent it to. So the two 400-foot films that I sent, 8mm films, it's cost me about 60 odd quid in total. I looked around, and most places would look at well over 100 quid. And in fact, I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago. Max Spielman's wanted to do like 240 quid, which is ridiculous. But I sent this off, and I think it's took 2 weeks. They've sent it back, and I've got two really interesting films. So one of them is mainly sort of is mainly video, interesting stuff. It's a family one, really, more than anything. So it's got my mum and my gran on it, and it's Morecambe and the Lake District and all that. So it's a family holiday. So it's really interesting from a family point of view. And it took some historical into there's a market. I don't know which. I'm not sure if that's Morecambe Market or something like that, but it's funny. Everybody looks dressed in 1960s clothes, because this is from 1962. But anyway, they've come across really well. Hesham, anybody knows Hesham? And I also got one of Scarborough. So this one came through, and this is kind of just scenic stuff. So I think I'll get this one uploaded on YouTube, because I'm sure some people of the Scarborough Historic Society or whatever will be quite interested in this, because there's a complete with a battle reenactment in the park with model boats and model aeroplanes and things, and the Scarborough train that runs around. I've never actually been to Scarborough, so I think probably this might make me want to go to Scarborough now. You see, it's actually quite good quality. My grandfather did quite a good job filming it as well. I noticed he's done the thing with the B-rolls, and he's cut it from one scene to another. And he's done some good music, some good good filming with that. So so these are quite interesting. But the one with my with my mother on and my grandparents is priceless, because it's just something I've never seen before. I think my mum's about 12 or something like that on it, and so so I'm really impressed with that. So these have worked out really great. So I'm going to write a little article about how the services I use, because they were really good. So I thought what I'll do is I'll put a little bit. I couldn't resist to put some music, because they're all silent, so I'll put some music to it. And I actually had a track which was called Summer of '76, which I did with it's kind of an old style track, oldish prog, mellow prog thing, which is a Stretch would fit to it. So I'm going to put that at the end, because that's a bit more it's a bit more emotional, so it fits quite nice with that. But I also wanted some real, more authentic 60s style music, and not use any library music. So I don't know if anybody knows Merlotron is, but Merlotron is the thing that Beatles use for Strawberry Fields, Moody Blues used for Nights in White Satin, and it's effectively a sampler. It's a keyboard, but every time you press a key, this tape loop goes round and round, and like you had flute sounds, like you heard on Strawberry Fields, but they also envisaged using it as a home. In fact, I have a little video clip to show you this as well. I'll get that up. But they actually envisaged that people would have these in the home. Like people had organs in the home. In fact, my granddad had a Hammond organ in his living room. So I don't think I can get the audio on this, but I can perhaps put a bit of a clip in on for when I edit it. So anyway, so the people had these in the homes, and what they did, they created these tapes of a full little orchestra tapes, and here there you can see I've got the video of this. This is the tapes playing, but it's a little backing band effectively. So you've got a foxtrot going, and you control the key. So you press the C, it would play the band would have played in C, and then you press the G, and the band would have played in G major or whatever. So I've used these samples from that to give me some authentic music. So it's got foxtrot there, it's got a bit of piano, it's got a bit of waltz and stuff. So I'll drop a sample of the music onto here. But I also, I'm going to put that Scarborough one on YouTube anyway, and people can have a listen to that one. So I've had quite a bit of fun doing that and getting the sound effects. And if anybody wants to know where I got them from, these are from Nord, who make the Nord Electro keyboard I've got, and they have licensed the tapes from Mellotron. So these are the ones that I've got on here now. So so these are the original files that I've got. So by the end of it, I should have I've got the authentic 1960s film with some original 1960s music to go with it. So I had quite a bit of fun doing that. So it's been quite a good project to do, actually, and I'm gonna. I've not let anybody else watch these either so far. So I've been doing all the work on them, and then my sister's coming over at the weekend, and I'm gonna show this for her. I think it'd probably be quite emotional for her, because we've not. My mum died 25 years ago, something like that. So we haven't seen, and this is just stuff that we haven't seen. So it's quite good fun, but it's quite interesting as well from the technology. I'm making YouTube videos with the television we've got here with music. My grandpa was doing exactly the same thing, but we used 8mm film, and with these Hammond organs and things like that. So it just shows you some of these traits do get passed down through the family as well. Yeah, so I think I quite like him. I think that's probably what it is.
So it's quite interesting on that video that you actually had David Nixon demonstrating it from way back. And
yes,
the magician.
Yes, TV personality, wasn't he?
TV personality, as it says on it. Also, backer of the Mellotron as well. I seem to remember. I think he was one of the investors in it.
He was, yeah. Because I mean, the Mellotron in itself, we could probably do a whole show on that. But actually, it was an American device called the Chamberlain. Harry Chamberlain made it. Was selling in the US, and a guy who worked for him actually had the demonstrator model and didn't give it back. Let's put it that way. Some might say stolen, but he actually brought it across to the UK and introduced it to Steel Electronics, who made the tape heads for it as a UK distributor, and it then became the Mellotron. So yeah, I think one part of the story is effectively he did Chamberlain out of those, that and the famous instrument became the Mellotron, and I think there had to be some legal discussions about it, and there was some I think they sorted it out in the end, with the British company being unaware that this guy had brought this over, and they didn't know, he didn't have permission for it, if so the British company didn't do anything wrong, and it was this sort of guy in the middle. But a quite interesting story, and if I can find it, there is a YouTube video about the story of that as well. But of course, Steel Electronics made the tape heads, and Mike Pinder, who worked at Steel Electronics. Mike Pinder was the keyboard player with Moody Blues. Yeah.
It's quite a bit of history there, and not appropriate for your video, because I think it was definitely the early '60s, wasn't it, when the Mellotron first came out?
Yes, early '60s, yeah. And as I said, and you can see from the look and feel of it, it was designed as something you'd have in your living room to entertain the family, not what became the prog rock instrument. Used great effect by Genesis, yes, King Crimson, but also by people like Paul Weller. If you look about the history of Mellotron, used by so many different people, now still used now, Beatles obviously, but these tape libraries were pretty good, because they're like little backing tunes, but you get to play them in the key, and great fun anyway. So I'll have those on my video, but been a really good project. I'm really glad I found them, and I'm really glad that they actually have some good content on them. I mean, I paid the money. It could have been just garbage when I got them back, but my granddad did a really nice job. He's put title screens in, and he's done end titles, and he did the whole thing. So he did a good job with them. He's put wipes in them and fades and everything, and not easy to do, I think, with 8mm. There would have been a lot of glue, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, double exposure as well. If you're doing fades, you literally wound the film back and re-exposed it. So that's talent.
And wipes. He's got some wipes in there and everything else. Yeah. So I'm sure he'd be very pleased to know that his work is 60 years on. He's been given a new lease of life as well, and hopefully I can give it to. Well, they're all in the cloud now, these files. So I need to make sure that my lads get these things, because obviously my grandma was on there, and they knew my grandma. She died a few years ago. So I've got the film. I've got a USB drive in there, but a great service, I'd say, by Bushy Digital, that were very good. They reached out to me a few times, let me know how things were going, and actually they don't just do 8mm film. They do anything. And they have a fairly easy, flexible price. I think they charge like 30 quid for a tape or a reel. So they make it, if you've got a VHS or a DAT or, digital Super 8 or whatever, they'll convert them. So they've got quite a nice, I think it's a small shop somewhere in Bushy. That's now turned the hand to doing these transfers, which I think is pretty good.
Good. They must have done a really good job of cleaning it up as well, because obviously that's usually the problem with most 8mm film of that era. It tends to well, the surface degrades a bit, and you can clean
Yeah.
it normally. Yeah,
Yeah,
done
and
a really good job of that.
there's no visual artifacts I've seen on them at all. So they have done a good job with that. So I think they've done some cleaning up as well. Because I was expecting to have to use some of these tools to enhance it, to make it sort of watchable, but I didn't need to. And I've had to do no actual editing of the video. It's the only stuff I've done is do the music side of it. And actually, the first time I've done any music to film effectively. So I used Cubase. Actually, upgraded. I was on Cubase 11, and I upgraded to Cubase 12, and which has got the option to bring the video in, which puts the time code on it, so you can sync the music with the video, which is quite good. Because I think I was originally just kind of thinking, well, I need 5-minute piece now for this 5-minute section. But when I brought the video into the project, that was much better then, because it had the time code on it, and yeah. So I quite, as I said, it's like I'm basic the new Peter Jackson stroke Vangelis or or Hans Zimmer. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I did Hans Zimmer on it. So yeah. But 20-minute videos, good fun. So yes, I quite enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, cool.
Also, while I've been doing that, I also another video, and this was with a Windows or a Windows app from the Microsoft Store. So last week I made a video about the Yamaha TX7, which is the little DX7 in a module, which I talked about last week, and why one is, the difference between that and the DX7. So I did the whole video, and I made some music specially for it as well, just using that and the drum machine. So I've released that video, and afterwards I thought, wouldn't it be good if I just put the song up? So I did put the song on YouTube, but I wanted some video to go with it, and I've got the clips that I'd done from when I made the video, but I wanted it to look a bit retro. So if you can see this video, this is my music video for the demo. But if you notice the effects on it, it looks like a VHS video.
Yeah.
And there's actually an app from the Microsoft Store called VHS Video. And turn the sound down on it. I don't think you can hear that, but I can. So it converts. You give it a clean video, and it makes it look like a VHS. And I think actually it does a pretty good job. It's pretty convincing that.
It is very convincing.
I showed someone at work, and they didn't believe me that I'd made that video this week. As it just, when I said it back, they said, "Well, did you shoot it on a VHS?" I said, "No, this is just you give it the tool, you open the tool up. I'll include a link in the show notes, but you just browse for the file, and it outputs this degraded video. But yeah, it has the artifacts, but it's got the resolution, and it's very cleverly done." But anyway, so I've been doing that as well. So a bit of 80s style music with 80s video to go, and I've done 60s video with 60s music now. So quite enjoyed doing that this week. So that's a free app from the Microsoft Store as well. And the article that I talked about as well, you can have a look at that. That is about the DX7 and the TX7 editor. So here you can see there's a screenshot from the original video, and you can see it was good quality, and then I've managed to downgrade it. So yeah, good quality down to
that's good. That's good.
Yeah. So I've got another one of those tracks. I'm going to stick those on the Spotify. One of the other ones goes well with it. It was also recorded with that. I think it's very Jan Hammer, very my advice. So they'll probably be on Spotify by next week. Now we better change track now and look at some of the build news. We didn't get a build last week for Dev or Canary, so but we did get a release preview and a beta build. So the beta builds, let's have a look at those first. So beta build was 22621 and 22624. Not a huge amount of features in those. They did have some of the features that we talked about on the dev channel. So I think the option of the always on keyboard, or when the keyboard's attached, that option's back. and the VPN icon in the taskbar is. I thought this feature had been around for a while actually, but actually it was only on the dev channel, so that they're across, and there's some more languages as well. So that's on the beta channel. I think the release preview one was just for the original version of Windows 11, so not the 22H2 version, and there were just some bug fixes in that. So nothing much in that that they included. So there must have been some show-stopping issues in the Dev or Canary build. I did see a bit of a debate on Twitter about people said, why can't you? We've got these new channels. Why can't you get a build out? But I think if Microsoft find a bug that could potentially cause you to, to lose your image and you have to rebuild it or whatever, then I would rather not ship one than have to go all that trouble. I don't know why people feel a bit entitled to having a build every week. It doesn't. You're just testing things. If they don't think it's worth testing, then that's fair enough. So there wasn't a lot to test last week, but at least they didn't crash everybody's systems.
Machines.
Yeah. Oh, it reminds me where I'm on this page as well. I've been clearing out my loft, as you know, and I've got a book. Do you think it's safe I could get rid of this book now?
Probably, yeah, probably.
This is Visual Basic 5 Developers Workshop. Which is a well-thumbed book, as you can see.
Yeah, John Clark Craig and Jeff Webb. They knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
So that's probably a Centre for Computing History donation, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I'm quite happy to, because I've got my Visual Interdev book in there as well, which I'm sure that one must be worth something. I'll see if they want to, because everybody wants to know about creating ActiveX controls. Because what could go wrong creating those?
Those were the days.
Yeah. I think I've got a C book as well, but I think this is probably one of my older books that's in there. I have got a VB3 book. I think I got rid of that one, so I think this is one of the old ones. But I haven't done it much development apart from using Power Automate recently. But you can tell from this book, it's been well read, that one. I used to those are the days where you got really good technical developers, and of course back in those days as well, you also got good manuals from Microsoft. The VB5 I think came, and VB4 certainly. The Visual Studio, the first Visual Studio I got, which was Visual Basic 6 included, it was a big box with loads of books in it. Really good manuals in those. Yeah,
some really good stuff back then. Actually, I mean, some of the fundamentals in those is still relevant today. I think some of the things that. Because I think that's one of the problems, that because we evolve along the way, new starters, and I found this got up with recently when I'm sort of mentoring younger new people, new devs, they don't actually have the grounding because they didn't live through some of this stuff. So there's a lot of assumptions when you come to use Visual Studio. You actually know how things are working, and back in the day we didn't know how things were working, and we had nice manuals which told us how they worked.
Yeah. I mean, I remember sitting and reading, I'd sit on the sofa and read these books at night. I'm not sure why I thought it was that interesting, but I remember doing that. Certainly because I think I did VB6. Did I do VB6? I did my MCSD on VB6 was it? So I definitely studied those books. I don't know what the MCSD. I've not really kept up with today with the Microsoft certification. But I don't know. I don't think my Visual Basic one counts anymore.
Probably not.
VB6 anyway, and Visual Interdev. Is that something that still young developers still look at, the Microsoft certifications?
Oh yeah. A lot of certainly the ones who are on the Microsoft stream, the Azure and .NET stuff. That they go primarily Azure certification. It has to be said, but all good stuff.
Yeah, I'm not looked at that for a while. I did do that. I am a certified Windows Media Center expert because I did do the exam on that when it was a beta. Those were the days.
They can't take that one away from you, Ian.
No,
they won't take the Media Center away from you, but they can't take the exam.
No. A couple of AI things we mentioned about AI about when we were talking about upscaling. Did you see that Microsoft have launched image creator AI?
Yeah.
Today. So this works very much like the tool I showed last week, which I think is actually better than this. But if you wanted, I don't know, let's go for an album cut, another album, synthwave, 80s, something. You pick a subject, and in fact, here's one I created earlier. I did a room full of synths, and it's created some quite interesting abstract art about this room full of synths. And if you notice, when you actually look at them, they're not real, but it looks real, and it's actually quite artistic, that one. Yeah, so it's quite an interesting tool. So I think in the past I've used a few other services, but I think this one is still, this one is still running. But you can see I've got some other ones on here. So if you need some quick artwork for an album cover or a thumbnail or something like that, these tools are quite good now. Don't know whether it's. Do you get to? Oh, there you go. It's finished that. So this is Synthwave 80s, which has got that grid 80s feel, very purple. I actually quite like that one. Might use some of these for album outcomes. I prefer the Microsoft Designer tool because that's a bit more creates the whole thing with you. But I think it's quite good for image creation tools. I don't know. And this is just part of Bing now as well. So. Yeah, as well as with the chat, you can got that. So there's quite a lot of these tools coming on stream now. I think Copilot's coming to Office, isn't it, as well?
It has, yeah. So that's good. I think I saw something interesting the other day, and I actually thought this actually had some benefit for people. Basically, Teams backgrounds generated by AI, but which were reactive. So if you move, the shadows behind you might move on the background. So it actually looked like you really were in that location. It's quite an interesting concept.
Yeah, but if they build that indirectly into Teams, yeah. I think some of the other stuff is coming with this AI stuff. Because Google's, I think, pushed theirs out today, hasn't they, or a preview of theirs today. So I've seen lots of people doing Chat GPT, Bing Chat, and Google's one, and seeing the different results. What I found with the Bing one is it varies what it can do. They're constantly developing it, aren't they? And it varies what it can do every time you use it. You might get a very different answer back. So yeah, interesting tools. But I like the artwork ones. They're quite good. But I suppose they can get a little bit samey, I suppose. That's the only trouble is if you're, if I'm doing synthwave 80s album covers and somebody else is doing wants to do an 80s one, they're going to end up pretty much the same thing, similar, So it's not. It does have its limitations. But I found certainly the Microsoft Designer tool really, really good for doing quick things like that otherwise would be hard to do yourself without those tools. It's going to be interesting once it comes into things like Cubase and the Studio and Logic and those kind of music tools, where it will suggest chord sequences maybe, or melodies or harmonies and things like that. It's how far all this is going to go. You still want that spark of human creativity. But how much of that, and the more AI assistants you get, the more do things get very generic.
They do. I mean, they're not truly creative either. I mean, they obviously they're compositing out of existing stuff. So when you want to get truly creative, it becomes an issue. I mean, it's the same with the code writing stuff. I mean, I've seen people generate some really good code for stuff which is already out there, not reinventing the wheel, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, you can do that, and if you can do it and potentially do it from your own code base, if you've got a big code base of stuff and you want to actually write some code which has effectively already been written, but just nobody has the full memory set of everything in a code base, that's quite a good approach. And that's basically what they do. They take existing code and create new code from that, but actually doing truly creative is a slightly more challenging thing. So for something new, and there's not that much new under the sun, but there are things which are new and still need that creative mind. So I think, I mean, this will take some of the drudge away for some things. I think there are some industries which are definitely under threat from this stuff, which is based on found knowledge or existing knowledge. I mean, you look at law, for example, particularly in America, where everything's based on case law and actually finding the right case law to apply to your current case. Then you can imagine AI would be very good at doing that, and probably there's a lot less need for the more junior lawyers, perhaps. But then you have this problem where you don't get the expertise. How do you get the next generation of the senior people? Because you haven't got the junior people coming through the ranks learning this stuff and having knowledge and being able to be creative. And yeah, it's an interesting challenge. It is going to affect us how we work and how we play. But yeah, it's I mean, it's still a way off yet. To being truly exciting for me, but it's interesting to see. I mean, this is sort of stuff I was playing with 4 or 5 years ago, to be honest, in terms of some of the stuff I was working on, some of the cutting edge stuff we did back then. But it's definitely interesting to see it becoming very much more mainstream now, and being talked about mainstream as well.
It is kind of the new. It's the current thing, isn't it? It's got the zeitgeist about it. But a couple of years ago, it was VR and augmented reality. It seems to be, this is the thing now, isn't it?
Yeah, and but to be fair, compared to things like VR, this has really captured the public attention as well. There's a lot of people actually playing with it and using it and making and doing good stuff with it. I mean, like your album covers. I mean, yeah, they are, as I say, found works. So it's going to be putting stuff together which, based on things he already knows, have been done for that sort of thing. But it's still, they are very useful for you.
Yeah, it's certainly better than if I tried to get out my Surface Pen and start hand drawing anything. And it's not the main idea of the project that I would spend the time on the music and not on the artwork. But I guess the AI might be used for, an artist might not use the AI for the cover, but would use the AI to generate the music. Unlike me doing it with Merlotron tapes. But yeah, those Merlotron tapes, like you said, that's found that exists already, so it would be a case of pulling that together. So yeah, it's interesting to see how it creeps into the different things. And now that Microsoft are just, it's a bit like when Microsoft really get into something, it does seems to get everywhere with all the product set, doesn't it? So
yeah, it does.
It's going to be in Teams, it's going to be in Office, like I say, it's already in Visual Studio. Yeah, it's going to hit everywhere on it. But I think once you get it to, if you can then start giving it a predetermined set of information, like you said, so your corporate history and corporate databases, then that's going to be quite, especially even just if it's examining a database of sales transactions and things, you can. Companies like Cognos and Power BI have been trying to do that real English query for years, haven't they? And this is perhaps brings that a bit closer. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. Right, well, I think that was everything that I had for this week's show. Have you got anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, I think everything's as I'm still doing my smart ad stuff and getting a few ideas. I mentioned it, I think, now looking for the sun azimuth and location, so it just the blinds to stop them bleeding me. That's actually working really well. I don't know about that, and I just suddenly realised that I'm not being blinded. It's the middle afternoon, but the sun's already down. And it only drops the blind as far as it needs to go. I kind of thinking actually that would be a really cool thing for a car manufacturer to introduce automatic blinds on the car so that you don't get blinded by the sun.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, and I had to change the battery in my SwitchBot thermostat in the greenhouse. Yeah, I think that's the second set he's had since I got them in 4 years or something like that. So I changed them over the weekend. So that and they have been really good. That I've been impressed with that. So, I'm really impressed with the battery life on that. Right. Okay. So where can we find you then?
For my EV stuff, you can find DVO on the channel, and I will be putting some new stuff out on there. And you can find me at Gary W May on Twitter and in other places, Mastodon.
Yes.
dot whatever it is. That's not
Excellent.
too.
So hopefully I should have at least one of the videos out. This maybe the Scarborough one. Probably will have a new single on Spotify and Amazon and Apple Music later this week if I can get enough time to master it before getting my films ready for previewing on the weekend. But you can find me on Twitter at ISDixon and on our YouTube channel and everywhere else. So hopefully Richard back with us next week as well. So we'll see you next week.